Good morning, students. Today we start our next topic of chapter Outcomes of Democracy, and the topic is Economic Growth and Development. As we discussed earlier, that democratic government is the people's own government because representatives are elected by the people. And there are so many advantages in a democratic country as people have political equality, as people have fundamental rights, as the democratic government improves the quality of decision making, it promote and save the dignity of the citizens. So there are so many advantages in a democratic country. If we discuss that what is the economic growth in a democratic country, so we have little bit disappointment when we compare the economic growth or economic development between the dictatorship and democracy. So let us start that what is the condition of economic growth and development, what are the economic outcomes in a democratic country. Let us start. Evidence shows that many democracies did not fulfill these expectations. It means that in the matter of economic growth and development, democracy is not fulfill the desire of people. Because if we are talking about our country India, still more than 26% of our population still is under the poverty. If we consider all democracies and dictatorship for the 50 years between 1950 and 2000, dictatorships have slightly higher rate of economic growth. Yes, there was a survey between the 1950 and 2000, and what was the result? The result was that in the rates of economic growth for different countries between 1950 to 2000, all democratic regimes 3.95% growth rate, but all dictatorial regimes 4.42%. So dictatorship or dictatorial regimes are much better than the democratic regimes. Poor countries under dictatorship 4.34%, and poor countries under democracy 4.28%. So in the poor countries there is a little bit difference between the economic growth of the different nation under the dictatorship and democracy. But we can't forget that there are so many advantages which we get in a democratic government, like we have fundamental rights, like we have political equality, we have right to vote, we have right to choose our representatives. All these kind of facilities or these kind of advantages which we are not getting in a dictatorial government or in a monarchy government. But democracy cannot be the sole reason for lower economic development, as economic development depends on several factors. The economic development of a country is not depend on the form of government, that there is democratic government, that's the reason that this country is lag behind in the matter of economic development, and that country is under the dictatorship, so that country is much ahead in the economic development. There are several factors, and the factors are that what is the population size, availability of resources, global situation, cooperation from other countries, and economic priorities adopted by the country, etc. These are the several factors on which the economic development of a country is depend. Like if you are talking about our country India, the Indian government adopted the new economic policy in 1991. What was the reason? To give a boost to our economy. For faster development, the former Finance Minister of India, Manmohan Singh, adopted the new economic policy. So these are the several factors on which the economic development of a country depend. Therefore, we cannot say that democracy is a guarantee of economic development, but we can expect democracy not to lag behind dictatorship in this respect. Yes, it is fact that democracy is a much better form of government in all aspects, so we are not accepting that democracy is lag behind in this aspect, like in the economic development as compared to dictatorship. It is better to prefer democracy as it has several other positive outcomes, and you know that what are the outcomes, that we have so many fundamental rights, we have so many advantages under the democracy or under the democratic government. There is a picture based question that there is a woman and there is a poor kid. My goodness, little fella, how far did you fall down? there are several challenges. First is hunger, second is schooling, third is healthcare, and fourth is housing. So these poor kids, before these poor kids, there are several challenges. There are steps, and there is a challenge that how to overcome these problems by the poor kids or by the poor people of India. So let us start that economic outcomes of democracy. Arguments about democracy tend to be very passionate. This is how it should be, for democracy appeals some of our deep values. These debates cannot be resolved in a simple manner, but some debates about democracy can and should be resolved by referring to some facts and figures. There are some facts which we have, that what is the economic distribution, it means what is the money distribution among the population of a country. So we have 2 or 3 tables on which we can say that this form of government is better, and there is economic inequality. In almost all the democratic countries there is political equality, but most of the countries there is unequal distribution of wealth. Over the years, many students of democracy have gathered careful evidence to see what the relationship of democracy with economic growth and economic inequality is. The tables and the cartoon here present some of the evidences. The first, table 1 show that an average dictatorial regimes have had a slightly better record of economic growth, but when we compare the record only in poor countries, there is virtually no difference. Yes, in the poor countries under dictatorship, the growth rate of economy is 4.34%, and poor countries under democracy, that is 4.28%. So there is a big gap between the economic growth of dictatorship and the democracy. Table 2 shows that within democracies there can be very high degree of inequalities. In democratic countries like South Africa and Brazil, top 20% people take away more than 60% of the national income. It is one of the bigger challenge before democracy, that unequal distribution of wealth. That in countries like South Africa and Brazil, that top 20% they have 60% of the national income, and leaving less than 3% for the bottom of 20% population. Countries like Denmark and Hungary are much better in this respect. You can see in the cartoon there is often inequality of opportunities available to the poorer sections. So there is a table 2, that South Africa 64.8%. This is the economic part which share by the 20% of the top businessmen or the top rich people. Brazil 63%, Russia 53.7%. So this is the record of the inequality of income in the selected countries of the world, and India is also not the exception. India has also large unequal distribution of wealth, that more than 58% of the wealth is owned by 2% of the Indian people. So there is a wide gap between the rich and the poor people in our country, India. The next topic is reduction of inequality and poverty. That is, democracy is successful to reduce inequality and poverty from our country, India. There is a big question mark before the capability of democratic government. Democracies are based on political equality. Yes, all the democracies mostly they are based on political equality, that all the people they have right to vote and right to get elected. All individuals have an equal weight in the electing representatives, because our Indian democratic system is based on one person, one vote and one value. However, political equality does not lead to economic equality. That there is political equality, it does not mean that there is economic equality. Important points are as follows. Those at the bottom of the society face declining incomes. The ultra rich enjoy disproportionate share of wealth and income. At present in our country India, rich people become richer and poor become poorer, and there is a wide gap between the rich people and the poor people in our country India. Sometimes the poor even find it difficult to meet their basic needs of life, such as food, clothing, house, education, health, etc. What is the condition of poor people in our country India? We can discuss at present days, that what happened with the poor people during the corona disease, that so many people they lost their life due to hunger, due to shelter, and due to the lack of medical facilities. The poor constitute a large proportion of the voters and no party likes to lose their votes, yet the government does not appear keen to address the question of poverty as expected. So many political parties, they always talk about poverty. In 1971, during Lok Sabha election, Shrimati Indira Gandhi gave a famous slogan, Garibi Hatao. But after winning of Indira Gandhi, she became the Prime Minister of India, but after that there was no change in the condition of poor. And after the freedom, more than 70 years, the condition of poor become worse. Yes, there is change in the percentage of poor people, but not in the number of poor people, because India stands on the second place in the matter of population. The poor constitute a large proportion of the voters, and every political party is always take caring of the poor people, because there is an agenda in every election. When they campaign during the election, they always talked about that we make the policy for the poor welfare, we make the policy to the welfare, that poor people coming out from the poverty and our nation become rich. So these all the false promises made by the leaders of our nation. People in several countries are now dependent on the rich countries for fulfillment of basic needs. For the best example of this is Pakistan, that Pakistan is depending on United States of America and China for fulfill their basic needs, because जो चक्की में आटा पिसता है वो विदेश से आता है, जो पाकिस्तान के अंदर आटा भी आता है वो फॉरेन लैंड से आता है, वो यूनाइटेड स्टेट्स ऑफ अमेरिका से आता है. नेक्स्ट वन इज डिस्कसिंग हियर दैट व्हाट आर द सोशल आउटकम्स. यस, we discussed about the economic outcomes. Let us start that what are the social outcomes of our democracy. The social outcomes of democratic government can be studied under the following heads. The first one, that accommodation of social diversity. Students, if we discuss our country India is the land which has basic 6 principal religion and so many diversities which is based on sex, like there is a discrimination between the male and female, like on the religion 6 religion, language more than 2200, and the caste and subcaste. But democratic government is the only government in the world which can accommodate these diversities in an easy manner. Democracies accommodate various social divisions. It usually develops a procedure to conduct their competition, which reduces the possibility of tension becoming explosive and violent. It depends on the working system of the government. We discussed in first chapter about the majoritarianism in Sri Lanka. In Sri Lanka there was a democratic government, but what happened, because the Sinhalese government followed the policy of majoritarianism and there was a civil war between the Tamils people and the Sinhalese people. But if we talk about Belgium, there was the diversity on the basis of language, and what happened, there was division of powers, and still there is peace and there is a system in which the good governance is continued. No society can fully or permanently resolve conflict among different groups, but democracy teaches to respect these differences and evolve a mechanism to negotiate the differences. Democracy produces a procedure in which the different kinds of diversities can accommodate in a easy manner. In democracy, majority always needs to work with minorities so that the government functions to represent general view. Because in our country India, majority does not mean here majority on the basis of language, majority on the basis of religion. Majority means that a political party wins a majority seats in the parliament in the lower house of Lok Sabha. Rule by majority does not become rule by majority community in terms of religion or race or linguistic groups. It means that in case of every decision or in case of every election, different persons and groups may and can form a majority. As we know that in a coalition government or in an alliance, there are various political parties become the part of government and they represent the different views and represent the different ideas of the different people. So democracy is the only way to accommodate the social diversity and maintain law and order and maintain peace in our country. The next topic is that the dignity and freedom of citizens. As we know that in a democratic government we have fundamental rights. We all enjoy fundamental rights. We are not the people of India, we are the citizens of India. Democracy stands much superior to any other form of government in promoting dignity and freedom of the individuals. Rule of law, political equality, everyone is the part of solution. All these protect and promote the dignity and the freedom of citizens. Every individual wants respect from the fellow beings. Democracy ensures this in the following manner. How? First, the passion for respect and freedom of the citizen is the basis of democracy, because if we talk about our country India, there are three basic principles of our Indian constitution. First one is equality, second is liberty, and third one is fraternity. And all these three words Indian constitution adopted from the French Revolution. Democracy in India has strengthened the claims of disadvantaged and discriminated caste for equal status and opportunity. As we know that SC and STs, these people are known as depressed classes, and these have reservation by our Indian constitution, and there are some reservations in the Lok Sabha like 84 seats for SCs and 47 seats for STs. These are known as reserved constituencies, that only these constituency, only the people who belong to SC and ST can contest in the elections. So this democracy is always take care of the needs and the desire of the discriminated people in our country India. The most distinctive feature about democracy that it constantly better itself. As people get some benefits of democracy, they ask for more and want to make democracy better. The examination of a democratic government is never over. But does it mean that when democracy overcome one challenge, it face a big challenge on the next step? If the democratic government fulfill the desire of the people, then the people, they demand more and more from a democratic government. Today, most individuals believe that their vote makes a difference to the way the government is run and to their own self-interest. Yes, at present time, the vote percentage is much higher as we compare to the past. Now, the people think that each vote has a big value in the formation of government. It shows that people have awareness and ability to expect and look critically at the power holders or the rulers of the country. Yeah, it is the awareness of the people of a democratic country that they criticize the bad policies of the government, and if the government is not working properly according to the wishes and the desire of the citizen, they can change them through the procedure of election. So these are the various aspects which shows that how democracy protect and promote the dignity and the freedom of citizens. The next topic and the last topic of this chapter, that dignity and freedom of women. That how democracy is promoting and protecting the dignity and freedom of women. As we know that India has a patriarchal society. It means that male dominated society. It means that father has more authority than women. That is known as patriarchal society. So for the protection of the interest of the women, our democratic government, Indian government, take many steps, and each and every democratic government of the world believe that men and women should be equal. If we take the matter of the dignity of women, we may see that long struggles by women have created some sensitivity today, and that respect to and equal treatment of women are necessary ingredients of democratic societies. At present, all men and women are equal. This is the base of a democratic country, that there is no discrimination between the men and the women, and there are so many provisions which are made by a democratic government of India for this, like equal pay for equal work, like give reservation 1/3 seats in the local government, like right to vote, which was given in the starting of the journey of democracy in our country on 26th of January 1950. And at that time the voting age was different, that 21 years, and after that in 1989 it was reduced from 21 years to 18 years. That does not mean that women are actually always treated with respect, but once the principle is recognized, it becomes easier for women to wage a struggle against what is now acceptable legally and morally. At present time, the dignity and freedom of women is protected by the constitution of our country, India. Now it is legally sanctioned in the constitution that there is no discrimination between the male and female. Give 1/3 reservation of seats in the local government to the women. It gives empowerment to the women in our country, India. Equal pay for equal work, that if the men and the women, they are doing same work, for the same work they get same salary. These are the various aspects which promote the dignity and the freedom of women. And at present we can see the result of the legally sanctioned principles. Then now the women, they become the part of solution, not the part of problem. Today we can see that in the higher education the women share becomes high. On higher post, women now starting participate in army also. So they become so many civil officers, IAS officer, IPS officers. So all these shows that today women is empowering day by day due to the legal status of the constitution and due to the awareness of the people of India. So my dear students, your chapter is completed, and next we start the first chapter of economics, that is development. Thank you and have a nice day.